Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And who am I? What am I? Let me think.
I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news.
That's what I want you to know. That's
He's
what
a
I
great
want.
man. He's the best.
He's the best.
Greenland's his.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be.
Panama.
Yeah. Gulf of America.
Gulf of America's good.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I do respect that one. I sort of like that. I like him just going, yeah, we're renaming that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why not?
Like, if he just decided to rename Mexico, like New Mexico, just to upset them.
I mean, no one else would recognise it. It would just be within America that it was called New.
Yeah, but
New
like,
Mexico.
what, the Gulf of Mexico?
Would you not call it Old Mexico?
What? I mean, you could do.
I mean, surely New Mexico was there later, so Mexico was there first.
Yeah, but that's what I was like, New.
But I think it's Old Mexico.
What about Old New Mexico?
Or, if New Mexico is New Mexico, why don't we just call Mexico Mexico?
What about New Old Mexico?
I think you could just Mexico would just work.
No, you're being ridiculous now.
I am being a bit silly.
What?
Lawyered.
Exactly.
New Old Mexico it is.
Yeah, I'm on board.
With are you moving to Mexico or?
No, they've got drug cartels and stuff. I wouldn't survive out there.
We've got gangs in London.
Yeah, but like, it's not Mexico. Like, you
No,
did
it's
this
not.
with India. You were comparing us to the slums of India, and it's like, no,
When did I do that?
you did it a while ago. When you were like, the poverty in India is really bad, and I was like, no, you were like, the poverty in London's just as bad as places, and I was like, no, it's not. I was like, it's not even comparable.
I think it is, and I think you know that.
I don't.
Lawyered.
You can't just use lawyer to.
I absolutely can. I'll tell you what I did.
Your wrong argument.
Me and Angela Bassett. I'm back, baby. I'm back, baby.
I need to remove that.
No, you don't. They're all
You'll
there.
still have that shitty beer. You'll still have that shitty beer at one on there somewhere.
100% it's there.
Cerveza.
Cerveza
I
Cristal.
still don't really understand it.
It's good.
And
It was
it's
good
probably
advertising.
Like 2 years out of date now.
But it was good advertising.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know what that's got to do with anything, but...
How have you been, mate?
Ill.
Yeah.
How have you been?
I thought you'd got better. You were on the
It's just
mend.
lingering, man.
Yeah.
It's just it was a really nasty thing. Like, about 3 days I was properly
But
out
you've
of
got
it.
a weak chest, haven't you? And that sounds like a slam. It's not meant to come across as one.
No, I think the way it rips for everyone that I knew had it,
Hasn't ripped through me.
it was like, I think
and
that's
you know,
fair.
we got really close after the episode.
Yeah, but you know we have a no kissing rule, and I think that's what saved us.
No, but we failed like we normally do.
But we didn't kiss lips, and I think that's what saved us.
Oh, I remember it very differently.
I don't know
Was
what
it
you
your
thought you were
evil
kissing.
twin Juan?
The Mexican fella.
Take it back to Mexico.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mexico, I mean, we might as well just jump
See.
straight in because I don't know where this is going. It's been a wild few days, couple of weeks really in America since Trump's taken over. He threatened.
It's
tariffs.
moving quick.
Yeah, like I think in the space of like 12 hours, I hadn't engaged with politics. Finished work and had a text from you that was like, mental, what's going on with Trump and Musk at the moment. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it's
That's how
moving
fast
really
it is.
quick.
Yeah.
Scary, isn't it?
And like literally in the space since last night, because like as of last night, they were set for a trade war with Mexico, Canada and China. They've now seemingly maybe resolved things
With Mexico and Canada.
Yeah.
But the resolve was that Canada will send troops
Yeah.
to aid with their border issues,
Yeah.
and that Mexico will also send troops with their border issues, that Mexico will try and stop drugs like fentanyl coming through from Mexico.
Yeah.
And in
America.
return, America would try and stop heavy weapons making their way back down into Mexico. All of these things were already being done, by the way.
Yeah.
Canada were already helping at the border. Like, these are not new things, and Trump's walking away like he secured the deal of a lifetime.
Well, and particularly
Also, with Canada, can I just say,
yeah,
because you're watching the video that we both watched, the Jon Stewart thing,
one.
when he talks about, and I sort of already knew this, but the whole thing about like this is a terrible trade deal with Canada, and it's like he actually
He's the
ripped
one
up
who
that trade deal with Canada and re-signed it during his first presidency.
Yeah, and he said
So-
it was the best trade deal in history.
Yeah, so
at
the
time.
current trade deal that is the worst trade deal in history was his best trade deal in history,
Yeah.
which just tells you everything you need to know about Trump. He's a
Yeah.
fucking con man.
And like also, who goes after Canada? They're like famously the least offensive country on the planet. If anything, I think that's why they're offensive, isn't it?
Well, because
Like,
they're
they
so
haven't got-
inoffensive,
Yeah,
they're
the
offensive.
America are like, you're making us look bad, so we need to do something about that. And like, even with, because they were saying fentanyl was getting into America from Canada, and apparently it's something like 40 pounds of fentanyl. So like, it's minuscule amounts of drugs are getting from Canada into the US, but that's the whole reason Trump allegedly did this.
Well, the reason, really, let's be fair, is because as soon as Trump threatened Canada and said, we're going to make you the 51st state and we're going to do this, that, and the other, Trudeau was like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to put some we're going to put some, because he was talking about we're going to tariff everyone. Trump was like, we're going to tariff China, the EU,
the UK,
Mexico, Canada, everyone. And Canada just kind of went, okay, well, we're going to tariff you also then, because you do buy stuff from us, being one of your closest neighbours.
And they're a huge country, Canada, as well.
Yeah, and currently, I mean, they can shift relatively easily to internal things, but one of the biggest things that's going to be affected is the housing market, because a lot of the timber that they use in housing production currently comes from Canada.
Yeah, which America needs, because they have very stringent rules over like their national parks and their forests and things like that.
So yeah, it can basically Trudeau went, okay, you want to tariff off, we'll tariff you, and Trump went,
Trudeau was out.
Whoa, you can't do that to us.
I thought Trudeau lost or was resigning.
I didn't. Yeah, he was definitely in a tough spot last year.
But he seems to just—it's a bit like
this has probably helped him politically.
Yeah, because he gets to seem strong in a very quick
standing up to a
space
bully.
of time.
And I'll say this with the UK, and I want to make my position very clear on this. I don't give a shit how big a market America is, and this is gonna people write in and say you're just being facetious, you're just being silly, you're just trying to make a fucking woke lefty point or whatever. I don't care how much it affects our economy. I do not want us dealing with a Nazi country.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit how big the economy is over there. I don't want us signing fucking free trade deals with America.
Yeah, sadly, we're not in a position to be able to afford, or certainly we haven't got a government that would be willing to do that sort of thing. I mean, just look at the way they've handled Israel. Yeah. Just complete support the entire time.
But yeah. Anyway.
But there is something quite British about Trump's attitude towards conquering the world and we'll just have Canada or have Greenland, Gulf of America. It is quite colonialist.
Yeah.
Britain, and there's the tiny little flag waver in me that's so I can understand.
Part of me wonders, is he just really dumb and he's just going to come in and he's go, or is he secretly very, very clever, or the people controlling him very clever, and that everything he's doing, the big flag waving, dick waving thing about I'm going to tariff the world and we're going to have a trade war with everyone, which, by the way, puts into perspective the Phantom Menace very well, because George Lucas actually predicted this superbly. When you think about the way he wrote
the story,
the trade
Who
deals,
gives a shit about
the high tariffs, and the fact that there was this trade war and it led to the collapse of democracy. I mean,
the problem is, if money is everything in society, then if you fuck with the money, shit goes wrong, doesn't it? It's not. And everyone and everything is leveraged up to the hilt. So it's all a cascading effect, isn't it?
Yeah, but part of me wonders, is all this stuff that he's doing very clever from, if not him, then the people controlling him, so that the world is not actually looking at what is really going on underneath. I mean, the whole thing of let's be real as well, because the big book burning in Berlin in 1933. One of the big targets of that book burning was a scientific research center focused on gender studies.
Okay.
So, not to be too facetious or dramatic, but that purge of trying to reclaim sort of white supremacy across Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
That started with the erosion of the trans identity.
Okay.
And now that's exactly what they're doing in the American government. It's now, if you go on, for example, the webpage that's about safe travelling for the queer community, and we have our own in our government, Australia.
Okay.
Every big government has one, so you can go and you can check what are the tips and advice for travelling as a queer person, because there's a lot of places in the world where being queer is still illegal.
Which I wouldn't even have conceived was a thing, because obviously it doesn't
But they've now, it used to be travelling for the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah.
It's now LGB.
Yes, I saw this, yeah.
All governmental workers have been ordered to remove any identifying pronouns from their email signatures. Like, you can't erase the existence of these people. They still exist. What you can do is make it very dangerous for them to exist.
Yeah, because you're vilifying them and you're making them the other, and people, because they don't understand, become more and more ignorant and hateful towards these people because of it. And if the most powerful person in your country is taking that, and it's why when Rishi Sunak came out while Prime Minister, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he targeted trans people in his stance, didn't he? And at the time I called it out because I was like, if the most powerful person in your country is saying these things, then it makes it socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the thing is, you know, to kind of, I know a lot of people have used it and spoken about it, and we ourselves have used it, but you know, the poem, The First They Came For.
Yes.
For all the gay people that are supporting this or that are happy to turn you the cheek, they're coming for you next. They're not going to stop with trans people.
Yeah.
These people they want white heterosexual people. They want a complete patriarchy. They don't want women to have any rights.
No.
They just want them to be there to breed and look after the family. They certainly don't want black people to have any jobs or existence, or Hispanic people or Asian people. What they don't want also is they don't want the existence of any gay people in their communities. So the fact is, right now, it's really easy to get trans people gone because they're not as enshrined, because, as you said before, there's a lot of unknown about them as a people. But they will come for you next.
Yeah.
Like you watch, before the Trump's term is out, there'll be bills in place to remove gay rights and gay marriage rights and all that kind of stuff. They'll be absolutely gone. And they will come for you. And you'll look around and you'll go, who's going to help us? No one, because you dicked over everyone that might. Yeah,
and it's weird, isn't it? Because, like, it has a legitimacy, like in America particularly, the sentiment sort of given legitimacy by faith, because faith is much bigger in America than it is over here. And like when these right wing assholes are saying all this stuff, they're also normally going, you know, I'm a good Christian, and that sort of
it justifies their
religious
hatred.
Washes it, doesn't it? Like you got sports washing, it's like religion washing, isn't it? It's the same with like Russell Brand. He's just gone full.
Well, it's a way to say, I'm still going to be a despicable piece of shit that hates a lot of other people.
Because God's fine with it.
But God's actually backing me, so I'm justified in my hatred. Yeah. And also, let's not... Okay, I've made a thing about them, but another group that's going completely under the radar are disabled people.
Yeah.
Who are now, basically, they're saying... Disabled people... You know, it's that whole thing
it's
of like...
It's because they're a diversity hire.
They're saying anyone... anyone who gets a job who is disabled, who is black, who is a woman, did not get it through merit. They got it because they are black.
Which is such a wild thing to say, by the way.
Especially with regards to the plane crashes. And by the way, can I just say to our friends in America, if you have got a flight booked, fuck me, cancel it. Run away. Don't get on that plane.
Hasn't he had to reintroduce the thing he abolished or something? Or he's had to do something? Because one of the things he abolished from Biden, apparently, is a contributing factor to, like, the
I'm not aware.
Safety's been, like...
I'm well aware that the aviation industry in America is having a torrid time at the moment.
I don't really know what's going on, to be
honest. Like, it started off...
I know a helicopter got crashed.
Yeah, well, it started off a few years ago when there was a whole series of incidents with Boeing, or with Boeing airplanes, and a couple of whistleblowers from the company came out and said, yeah, they're literally cutting corners every step of the way. They're missing safety steps, and
I've seen
they're
videos
burying it
on TikTok of planes with like duct tape on the wing.
Well, this is right, and then what happened was the whistleblowers were killed.
Okay,
so that is legitimate. So like the aviation industry is legitimately shit in America at the moment. There's a whole thing. So they were like, it was under one of them committee reviews in the Senate. So, like, you know how we have here, where there's no real accountability, but you just sit and you explain yourself. Well, that was going on in America with certain members of the FAA, but certainly members of Boeing. And, yeah, it wasn't able to go any further because all the people who were going to testify against them died. and kept dying. Like, how the fuck does that not
happens a
raise
lot in
suspicions?
America, doesn't it, though? But the problem is, and that sort of feeds back, like, whenever I talk to anybody about anything, it always comes back to big business.
Yeah.
And, like, these people have so much to lose. If there's billions of dollars at stake and you're going to lose everything, clearly people will go as far as it takes to make it happen and to make it work for themselves.
But yeah, the whole idea that this terrible tragedy, and there's actually been a couple more plane crashes since.
Yeah.
But the one outside Washington Airport, outside the Ronald Reagan Airport, where a military helicopter flew into a commercial airline, and Trump's administration, the first thing that his people did was to come out and go, "It's what happens when you hire black people and dwarves."
Fucking hell.
And I mean, like, I know
Was there a dwarf like,
but like that's what's been banded around is people going, when you do these DEI hires, these diversity, equity, inclusion hires, that's something. It's like, no one gets into air traffic control, a position in the air traffic control tower without being highly qualified.
Yeah, and it's notoriously an incredibly difficult and stressful job. Like, it's a job that has a very
high suicide rate, But like,
which they're just, and in your head you're like, but you're just landing planes. But you've like, it just.
But even if the person in there, if it came down to there's a black guy and a white guy, and we don't have enough black people around here, so we're going to hire the black guy, that black person is still, to even be in that position,
got in the room, they needed to be qualified,
highly qualified,
there. Yeah,
100%. So even though I sound like I might be playing into the Trump idea, like, it's an insane thing to suggest that anyone who's there, but it's basically saying, and it's summarising what John Stewart said, it's basically saying that anyone who isn't a white male, a white straight male, got their job not through merit. They don't deserve their job.
I've got to say, you know, if we fancy improving our circumstances, mate, I think we might need to go a bit more right wing and move out to America. I think we're about to thrive.
We could be.
It's our time.
Well, what did someone... It was one of the reform blokes who I saw a video, and I just eye rolled. I was with Lucy. Did we call her?
I think it's Lucy, yeah. Well done, though. Normally you do just say... I mean, we can just say her name now.
Yeah, it's fine. I was with Steph.
Yeah.
And she literally was like... I just went... I'm going to try and cover this here. I just sort of said, "Shut up, you."
You said that to your missus?
And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And it's because I'd watched this 30-second video where he went, "Let's call diversity, equity, and inclusivity hiring what it is. It's anti-white racism." And I was just, "Shut up, you cunt!" Like, I can't. There's no other way to respond than that. Because that's all. It's not that.
No.
But it's so easy for what, like we've said before, it's really easy to play on this idea for white people because we do have a white privilege and we do benefit from white privilege, and it makes us so uncomfortable. And the implied, we can't accept that someone else has suffered more than we have. And it's like, regardless of the ways they have or haven't suffered, one thing they have suffered with, as we've discussed before, they face barriers socially and professionally because of the colour of their skin.
Yeah.
We have not.
Or the name that they carry.
Yeah. Or the hairstyle or whatever. Whereas we haven't.
No.
And that's just one thing. There's a million things. There's a million ways where you might suffer or be held back or have to fight against in your life. And that is one of them, but that's one of the things that we will never face.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to turn on white people and just get them to go, "You're under threat. They're coming for you. They want to get rid of you because we were all woke." And it's like, no, they don't. The reason we have DEI hiring is because we were the only people getting jobs. And we didn't even necessarily deserve them. We were just getting them because we were white.
Yeah.
It's the only reason those schemes exist.
What do you think? There's clearly an issue with like the left being able to get their message across. Because for me, I don't think any of the things the left really talk about are that difficult to consume or to sort of reckon with or to be okay with. But it feels like the divide is just getting bigger and bigger, and that the right are increasingly having a worse relationship with the truth. And I just wonder what causes that.
I think it's because it's really easy for the right to say, "You're fine as you are, don't change. You're not the problem, the world is the problem." therefore you don't need to do anything. Whereas the left are saying, actually, we do need to do something.
Yeah.
Whether that's about the climate, whether that's about the economy, the welfare state, the housing situation, whether that's about diversity hiring. We're saying, actually, we do need to look at ourselves and make sure that we're not, providing any subconscious biases out into the world. Whereas the right are going, no, it's not you, it's them.
Yeah.
They're the problem. They're trying to tell you you're... And now, it's not only that, but everyone loves to be a victim. And the right are saying you're a victim.
Yeah.
They've picked the most populous group in the country, white people, and said, they're coming for you. And it's really easy to get on that.
Because the worrying thing is it's rising everywhere, isn't it? It's on the rise in America. Like, as of last night, there was a poll that in the UK, Reform are now officially ahead of Labour in voting intention. It's on the rise in Germany, France, Italy, literally just everywhere. And I don't really know what we do. I don't know how we tackle that. And
I think I have my issues in the UK. I was very interested to share this with you, actually, which I didn't. Bear with me, because there was someone actually did a study about question time.
Yeah.
And the number of right-wing people that they get on. So they found that, for example, one of the most popular outside of MPs, and Nigel Farage would have counted, but he is now an MP, so they now have to split his thing. But outside of MPs, one of the most popular panelists on Question Time is Isabella Oakeshott.
Okay.
Who's appeared 13 times.
Oh, wow.
Compare that to the left in terms of representation from the media, similar to the position of Isabella Oakeshott. The most frequent person who has appeared on the left is Ash Shakar, who has made 6 appearances.
Yeah.
So immediately, and that's just one example, and that's across the board. Right-wing people
the left gets out there enough, or they try? Because, for example, if you look at Farage, I heard someone else talking about this. He's everywhere on every subject.
But Ed Davey is as well, but he just doesn't get picked up as much.
Yeah, but not even just Ed Davey, but you look at the Greens. Why isn't Carla Denyer and the other leader on everything, pushing themselves out there? TikTok,
because
everything.
They don't attract the views, because they're not. I don't think that's their choice.
But I also don't think most politicians value what has sadly become the real world, and I think it's one of the main reasons why Trump won was he sees reality as online. And that it actually has value, going on. Joe Rogan got him a shitload of votes because he went on there, sat there for 3 hours with Joe Rogan, and even had at least one human moment where he talked about the fact he never drinks because he lost a brother to alcoholism. And that then humanises him and brings people on side. Whereas, what's her name, who lost to him?
Kamala
Harris refused to go on it because she wanted Joe Rogan to go to her and it be reduced and only certain questions.
Well, it wasn't necessarily. I know what you mean, but it wasn't a flat out refusal. What she said was she didn't have to. When the offer came in to go on the show.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think it's a mistake of the left not seeing a value.
No, I'm with you, but just on that specific instance.
Yeah, and I think the left also gets too. I could be wrong about this, but I think another reason why you don't see left people go on panel shows and things like that, they might not be getting invited, but when they are, they'll hear who else is on it and go, oh, I can't be asked to argue with that race-baiting idiot, whether it's Isabella Oakeshott or whoever it is. Do you know what I mean?
I just don't think they're getting the offer. I just really don't. And I think also, like I said, with that specific instance, the difference is Donald Trump, between his first term and his second term, did nothing. He had no commitments anywhere. Kamala Harris, not only was she in the middle of a campaign when the offer came in to say, do you know what, fair's fair, do you want to come on the show? But she was also a sitting VP, so it was very difficult for her. She didn't have that much time. I'm not trying to overly defend her, but I'm just aware of it's being twisted that she's refused to go on. What she said was, the only way I can make it work is if I can't go there.
She can do her schedule however she likes. I think it's been a little bit generous. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think she's a very busy woman.
Yeah, and I think Donald Trump was probably quite busy, to be fair, as well.
Not even as close to as busy when he went on there.
Fair enough. I'm just arguing, I don't think I think she missed a trick in not seeing the value of what that gives, because it wasn't even just Joe Rogan. He went on Theo Von, he went on other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but again, he had nothing to do between his first presidency and his second presidency, other than to promote himself as president. Whereas Kamala Harris was a sitting member
but it's
of
also
Parliament
well known
of the
that
government.
American politicians basically do no work in terms of their actual job whilst they're campaigning.
Yeah, and that's true. But while she was, like I said, I just don't think that's a fair comparison. She was a working woman. He did fuck all. His only goal was to promote himself.
So
yeah, but I think his only goal was to spend 4 years promoting himself.
Fair enough.
Whereas she only entered the race with 6 months to go.
Yeah.
Before then, it was Joe Biden who was being poked to be the next president. Anyway, but I like when we disagree.
Yeah.
But I just think that I do think the media has a responsibility to play in every country, because they're not, like, the thing is, again, when you talk about the content of the left and what the left's putting out, it's an uncomfortable message and no one's going to want to read it or listen to it.
Well, you're asking people to be uncomfortable with what clearly is feeling natural to them, which is to be against the other, isn't it? Or to be more open in general. And
whereas the right, what they're saying when they're speaking the truth, what they're saying when they're not speaking the truth, it's fear-driven, it's hate-driven, and you and I both know historically that sells more. Therefore, I think the media,
as well, isn't it?
The media, whether it's the print media, whether it's the press, whether it's the radio, the TV, it's easier to sell. So they just stick to it. I genuinely believe that it's a huge issue in the responsibility of the media, that they're driven more by. And it's you know what? Now I'm going to sound proper left wing. It's a capitalist problem, because they're all about the buck.
Yeah.
And therefore they're not committed to truth.
And the thing is, because traditional media is slowly dying like a slow death, isn't it? So like, they're trying everything possible to keep views up and keep advertisement coming in and keep the money coming in. That they will have Farage on everything every day because he gets the views. But that's why I think, like, nowadays a politician needs to be able to, like, go and sit on a podcast and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
I do.
And not necessarily just on left-wing ones. Like, you'll see Carla Denyer go on Joe Politics or something like that, but she might not sit down with someone that she disagrees with because she doesn't want to get... And it's the same for a lot of politicians, by the way, don't actually want to be pressed on anything because they need to...
No, of course they don't.
Because in our politics, for some reason, you need to be fluid and be able to
and
never
maybe
be pinned down.
I'm just thinking out loud. I don't have a theory on this. I'm just thinking out loud, responding to what you said. Maybe that's part of the issue. Maybe people on the left don't want to put themselves everywhere because they don't want to say something that then isn't true. So they want to make sure that they've got their facts, whereas the people on the right don't give a shit about having the facts, and they'll just go on there and they'll say anything.
I think most left-wing people, unless you're on, like, the extreme left,
I'm talking about the extreme one, but...
like, reasonable people. So, like, they don't want to go out there and be like, no, this is what I believe and I believe in it firmly, whereas the right are more happy to go and die on any fucking hill.
And the difference is as well, and we've seen it time and time again, and we do see it with people on the left, but less so. So please don't think that I'm being exclusively left and right, because we do see it on the left, but far less frequency than on the right. People on the right will go out there and say, this is the hill I'm going to die on, 100%, and then a year from now go, no, this is what I now believe. I never said that. And then you go, this is you. And they go, no, you're taking that out of context.
Yeah.
It's the right, whereas the left don't want to do that. They don't want to, they don't want to be caught in that position, and they know they might change their mind. Yeah, I think there is something to that.
Yeah. Oh, I had another point, but it's gone now. Let's just get on.
Sorry.
It's all right. No, you didn't do anything wrong, mate. I just didn't hold on to it. I think this is it. The reason, like, I bring up the Trump, Kamala, Joe Rogan thing is because at the moment the left is failing. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's because everything's stacked against them or the messaging's wrong, all of the above. It probably is all of the above. But the right is winning. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like we're sleepwalking into a situation, like, because Farage has only won this election as an MP, I think we've said before, like, he doesn't quite have the credibility for us to feel comfortable saying, like, he could be Prime Minister. But I feel like we're sleepwalking towards it at the very least, and I feel like we have to be open to, like, where we're getting it wrong, and I feel like from having listened to right wing stuff, they constantly feel like they're being spoken down to, And it's difficult because when they are as unlogical and in the wrong that they are, how do you put that message across without it sounding condescending?
When they are saying things that are blatantly not true, it's very hard not to sound condescending when you're calling someone out on that. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And then it's easy for them to twist that.
I think that is the most key detail in all of it. How do we do that? And I don't have the answer.
No.
Because if it we know people that if we had them on here, they'd probably say like ridiculous shit. But if we gave them facts, it wouldn't penetrate them. They'd still believe the things they believe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. And like, I think part of the problem as well, like I remember learning in school that the reason the Nazi Party were able to be so successful in terms of dominating German culture and taking over was because they were in an economic situation that made them incredibly vulnerable and susceptible to coercion, basically, and being radicalised.
And it was very easy because they were targeted as the aggressors in the First World War, which they were, just to be clear. Because they were targeted, and even it's one of those things, isn't it? The people had nothing to do with it. Now the people are paying the price. And again, it's easy for the Nazis to spin it and say we're the victims. And again, it's this victim thing. It's this victim mentality, and it's what you've got there as well. Is when you've got a group of people who you're saying you're the victims. Not only are they alleviated of any guilt, but you then get to turn up as their saviour.
Yeah.
And it's a double-edged thing.
And I think the reason it's only going to get worse is because no one's addressing wealth inequality. Like, unless we address
But we're addressing it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
We're looking at the poor people coming in. We're looking at the immigrants coming in.
And
I know that's historic. That's always been the way. But meanwhile, our wages have been completely stagnant for such a long time. We've, the cost of living shot up and the cost of everything's going up. So our wages relative to what we can afford are way, way down.
Yeah.
And we go, oh, that's really tough. Are we all in this together? And we're going, and what we're doing is looking at the immigrants and going, no, why are they getting money? I haven't got enough money. Why are they? When really we're going, hang on, these guys are making record levels of profits.
Yeah.
So actually they could afford.
There's no money.
They could afford to keep us the service at the same price and just take slightly fewer profits, but still take profits. No, they're making record profits.
That's actually what businesses used to do. Like I think I've said on the pod before, I listened to something called Business Wars, which talks about like the battles between like Coke and Pepsi and things like that, or Hershey's and Mars in America. And constantly businesses were like, we can't decrease the size, we can't increase the price, we can't pass the burden of cost onto our consumers because otherwise they'll stop valuing our products. And at some point that changed and it keeps getting deregulated, and these companies are allowed to just do whatever the fuck they want and they're not paid for the privilege.
No, and it's an interesting thing as well, the fact that the Trump talking about EU-US relations and how we take some we're not. How the EU takes some products from the US. He said we take everything from them. We take their cars, their whatever. We take their food, but they don't take a lot of that. And it's like, no, that's because the standards in the US food are so low that actually it's ridiculous. And the reason you keep taking our food is because as long as people can afford it, they'll choose it because the quality's higher. Yeah, like it's really that simple. If you want to drive US production, you home bought. Regulate, don't deregulate. No. Don't give the free market and allow these people to make more profits.
The argument
regulate.
They'll make is, but it'll be cheaper for everyone. It's like, yeah, but it'll be worse for everyone at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
And it's the whole thing with the Brexit.
And it won't be cheaper. It might be cheaper for a bit.
And it's the Brexit thing, innit? Everyone's talking about, yeah, exactly, and it will go up. Of course it will, but once the standards and the qualities drop, they're never coming back.
No.
But once the prices drop, they will come back. Yeah. I think that's the point of it, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's why I think it's only going to get worse in terms of the right side of politics getting stronger and stronger, is because the desperation people are feeling that are making them angry,
and it works for them because
to be coerced is only going to get worse.
All this red tape, which was a huge fucking buzzword during Brexit and during the Brexit campaign, but
there is now actual red tape that makes everything
very
worse.
Clear, in my opinion, and I do believe there's a lot of evidence to back this opinion. Deregulation helps the shareholders. Yeah. Regulation helps the consumers.
Yeah.
You and I, and all of the people listening, we're never going to be shareholders. No. We're consumers. We're always consumers. We're at that end of the chain. Regulation helps us.
Yeah.
Better standards, better quality, that benefits us. Caps on prices, or even things like that.
Totally. The
They
thing
help
is,
us.
I could be okay with deregulation if it was for a purpose. Like if there was an industry was like, this is an opportunity, it's good for development for the country, it's good for jobs, it's good for economic
But that's
growth.
what they say it is.
Well, no, but like but the problem is with these measures, as we've said in every area, is like they don't then go away. So like we would deregulate that industry, flood money into it, and then leave the floodgates open. We won't then go, actually, no, now there's three things back that start getting the return on our investment. We just don't do that. So I think you need more stringent regulation, as you just said, to actually...
absolutely. And yeah, there's a whole load of shit going on with it. And obviously I've spoken many, many times about my beliefs in... about privatisation of various sectors, because privatisation only ever benefits shareholders, and it's always at the cost of us consumers. Every time.
There's not a single privatised industry in this country that has fulfilled its purpose or done what they said it would do by privatising it, which was make it cheaper and more efficient for the consumer. And it's been done with things that, in my opinion, really, if I put
basic rights.
Yeah, like being heated, having
energy
power,
and water.
having water. Those things, I can accept you have to pay for them, but you shouldn't be getting bent over for them. You should be paying maybe even just slightly higher than what it costs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not double what it costs or triple what it costs, or because that was the thing. Like, and this is where the regulation stuff comes into it. Like, you look at when Russia went to war with Ukraine, the prices shot up, and then we found out the price for these companies then went back down, but the fucking prices didn't for months.
Yeah,
and they're still not back down to where they were.
Even though the price at source is back down. Yeah, absolutely.
So so everything needs to be regulated. But the problem is our political systems and our politicians. Once upon a time, it was about service. It was about standards. It was about serving the people you represent. And that's not the case anymore. If you become an MP, I would reckon, by and large, it's for what you get after being an MP. It's the cushy job you get. It's, like the amount of cabinet ministers, I can't remember which one it was, that left like under a cloud as well from being a minister and got a 10 million a year job immediately.
Yeah.
And like, what did they do to get that?
Yeah, never know. Absolutely. And look, one thing that just to point out some of the good, as we tried to do with the Tories, there was less and less of it as the time went on. Granted, one of the good things that came out of what the Labour's announced plans in the last few weeks is that one of the things is this plan to build reservoirs.
Okay.
So I think they're planning on building 9 or 10 reservoirs, which is huge, because one of the things is that
there's a water shortage.
Is that we don't have enough capacity at the moment, and they flood them, and that's how we end up with shit in the rivers, shit in our sea and stuff. So it's actually going to benefit everyone.
Okay, fair enough.
To have these reservoirs, it's actually going to be a good thing.
Well, and actually, to be fair to Labour, from what I've heard, our position in terms of with Europe and the USA, I know you'd rather we didn't deal with the USA, but apparently has improved. Like, apparently Starmer and Trump had a positive phone call.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it?
He's now apparently not planning to put tariffs on the UK.
Trump trying to drive a wedge between the EU and the UK.
Yeah.
Just as the UK looks like it's set to get a bit more pally with the EU than it's been since the Brexit debacle.
Well, because finally that needle's changed. Probably. Yeah, because he doesn't like Europe. So.
And also, is it from his Russian overlords saying, can't have them getting all back together, we need to divide?
I've not really delved into the Russia-Trump stuff, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know how much. Because all I've ever heard is the Joe Rogan side of it, which is there's no evidence, and I accept that. That's Joe Rogan, who's a Trump supporter, so I just don't know. So,
Well, they quashed the Russia report, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know anything.
Yeah, there was a report into Russian interference in the election.
Accusations.
And the FBI launched a full-on investigation into it, and then it just never got released, and then it got destroyed.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So that's never coming out.
No.
Anyway, look, one other thing that we need to talk about in America as well, while we're on America, is Musk.
Yeah.
Because I know he's become a running feature of this podcast in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it feels mental to be discussing for a third week in a row.
But he's become one of the most dangerous people in the country.
Yeah.
Because he
wields a lot of power, doesn't he?
Over the weekend, he sent his Doge team, which isn't a real department, to the Treasury.
Yeah.
And they gained access to the system that pays out everything from the, so all the pensions, all the welfare, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
His team gained access to that system, and he started posting things about some of the payments and going, this isn't going to happen anymore. This is going to stop. You're not getting any money from here on out, kind of thing. And then overnight, that's the cat. I love the cat. Should we let the cat in?
No, because he'll just sit on the top of the sofa and meow. There you go, he's left.
So anyway, over the weekend, over the most recent, a couple of days ago, everyone in the department of the USAID, so USAID, the international development,
all, like, the aid sort of loans and payments.
So they deal with programs all around the world that include things like, so there's a child care and safe childbirth program in I can't remember where it is, but it's in a third world country. They deal with food programs. They deal with AIDS protection,
like international development and investment, isn't it?
So it's basically everyone got an email saying don't come into work until further notice. And there was a bit of a standoff where the senior members of the team, where Doge turned up to the building and went, we're coming in and we're accessing everything, and they went, no, you can't. That's not your responsibility. That's not. They threatened to call the US Marshal in. So eventually they did gain access to it, and they've shut it down. Now Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State and also just a massive turd muffin, he's going to run a 90-day review of the programs.
Right.
To find out which programs align with Trump's political ideology. But Trump's already told us that putting money internationally is a waste.
Yeah.
So none of them are going to align with Trump's political ideology.
No.
But it doesn't matter anyway, because without funding, without direction,
they'll fall apart anyway.
These programs will die in the next 3 years. Will not survive the next 3 months. So then once they're dead, you can't get them up without investing more. You're never going to invest in more.
Work for free and do things but they can't do it forever.
But they've killed them. They've killed all internet. And whilst I do appreciate that, this is just I'm just thinking about this.
Do you see this level of action lasting? Because when I've listened to coverage of it, a lot of them are saying all of it is at best legally questionable.
Oh, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? They shouldn't have been able to do any of the things they were able to do, but by being willing to threaten using force essentially against them, they can do it.
And this is something I've just thought about, again thinking out loud. Is it not one of those things where, even though you don't, you want to put all that money into your own country, and I appreciate that, but one of your biggest issues, according to the right, is illegal immigration.
Yeah.
If you shut down all these countries and make it worse to live in these countries, they're even more hungry. They can't give birth. They're going to be more desperate to come to you.
Yeah.
Am I being dumb, or is that a thing?
No, but you're being logical, and that's the problem. That's irrelevant now, really, isn't it? That's the thing. Logic is left.
Are we in a post-truth society? Are we in a post-logic society?
Yeah, I don't really think you can argue anything else.
But the point is as well, Musk is a civilian.
Yeah.
He's not an elected representative. He is not an elected official. He is running amok, and he is taking control.
Oh, Musk, sorry, I thought you said Trump for a second.
He is taking control of everything. And do you know what the funny thing is as well, by the way, as you saw in that Jon Stewart video?
Yeah.
The whole thing of these people telling us that they want to be a meritocracy and they don't want to be, hired for any reason other than the fact they've earned it.
Billionaires and mates at the
all
top.
said by people who are friends with or related to the president. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, I mean, look. If there is a conspiracy, which I think most of the time with conspiracy, it's just everyone's selfish and acting in their own interests, and because of that, they're all aligned in the same direction and they're all moving in that direction. I think it's just to enrich themselves.
How did the left fight back?
I think more exposure, just try and get out there as much as possible. That's all you can do. Try and meet people at their level, have honest conversation.
Do you try and tone it down so that you're not putting as much pressure on people about how bleak it is? You're not going out there with a bad message?
I think the message has to be who the enemy actually is, because that's not what I hear a lot. There's a few creators I watch that talk about it, like Gary Stevenson. I've talked about him before. He's an economist. And he's like, the problem is the super wealthy. And he said, I'm not even talking about people with like 10, 100 million in the bank. I'm talking
billions,
about
trillions.
people above that just have insane wealth, that don't need that amount of wealth. And that even if we just took a little bit off the top off of them, we'd be a lot better off. But that isn't the message we're getting from the left. The left is so afraid of going against what the right is, which is immigration, and saying that isn't actually the problem. Like, too much immigration is a problem.
Yeah.
You just don't have resources and space for people.
And we talk about illegal immigration as well, but again, we mentioned it before under the Tories when it was a huge thing.
Yeah.
They cut all the legal routes.
But what we have learned is that immigration, especially in the world we live in, is a necessity. You need millions of people in your country that are willing to do jobs that your native population just aren't willing to do. And then that's exacerbated by the fact the social contract's been broken, that, as we've said so many times, that people our age are still living at home, can't afford to even rent, let alone own their own home, can't have children. So why the fuck should they go out and do these
And we
jobs
said the money's
when
there.
they're underpaid and overworked and it's shit? Like, you ask any nurse at the moment what their job's like, they wouldn't recommend it to you, would they?
No, I don't think.
Or a doctor even.
I don't think there's any profession currently. I can only speak for the UK. I don't think there's any profession currently that would say, yeah, you should give this a go. They'll all say the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
Why try? Just go and live your life.
Deregulation, because companies have been allowed to strip assets, to under-resource the companies that they own.
Yeah, because things
cut
like
labour.
And because things like the NHS and the education system, they've been run like a business.
Yeah.
For the last 15 years.
Yeah.
It's all about profits. It's all about cutting everything.
Me, the investment you put into your population is a loss leader, innit? You're investing in your people to make your country better, and that they're all earning more money, and they're all developing, and they're all making the country better.
And another thing on the message,
but we only want that if we're all white.
The message of the left and the message of the right is the left are saying things can get better, but we all have to collectively work at it, and we might have to sacrifice a little bit of this or a little bit of that to get there. And the right are saying things will get better, and all we have to do is get rid of the left.
The thing is,
all we have to do is get rid of the gays. All we have to do is get rid of the blacks, the Hispanics. We just need
to silence them.
All we have to do is get rid of all those people, and things will get better. So it's a difference of the right saying things actually will get better, and it's really easy to do, and the left going, actually, no, we've got to collectively work.
I think the messaging should be quite simple. It's not even about we all need to sacrifice. It's all about, no, look, these dickheads up here have all the resources. The government doesn't even have all the resources.
I would just go on there every single day, and I know people slam you down with jargon that people don't understand to try and counter your point and try and use all these economic terms and go, oh, it's not that simple actually, because you create an influx in the markets and whatever else bollocks words you can think of. But for me, I would be going on there every single, like you said, I'd be getting my face as much as I can with a list of costs and a list of wealth, and I'd be going, Elon Musk is worth however many billion. It would cost this amount of billion to house every single person in the UK. It would cost this much to feed every single person in the UK. It would cost this much to end homelessness, this much to end poverty, this much to end this, and this one person has more than enough to do that.
To cover all
it's
of
not that the money's not there, it's that they'll have it all. And that's, I'm with you, I'd be doing that.
But the problem is, society seems to be afraid of that, because we had not necessarily,
because these people have got all the money and they're swaying us.
But it wasn't that long ago our country was given the choice to have a proper left-leaning government that would have invested in the people, that would have given
all
everybody
the people
more.
And all the people with all the money and the influence pushed against it.
Yeah, but people were still stupid enough to fall for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that sounds harsh, but we were stupid enough to look at Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn and what they were both offering, and the country en masse decided that Boris Johnson and zero investment was the way to go. And since then, we've reaped the rewards of that. But yet, we are in a post-truth society, because that's not the conversation that's being had.
As I said, I was never Corbyn's biggest. He's fine. I was never like a massive fan of Corbyn, but
the more time goes on, it's harder to understand.
His policies were the closest in my lifetime that have ever aligned with my own political ideologies. I think the problem was sure.
He was a controversial figure. He was quite unlikable in certain ways. Like, apparently he's not a particularly friendly bloke. And he's not the most charismatic. Like, if I watch a podcast with him on, I'm like, you are a bit dry, Jeremy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't bother me. Like, for me, it's about what does someone stand for and what do they represent. And the one thing you can say about Jeremy Corbyn, he's been pretty fucking consistent.
Do you think if he'd have come in like Starmer did, because Starmer's not particularly charismatic,
No.
do you think if he'd have come in at the end of Boris's reign rather than nearer the start, because Boris's self-destruct button just went off in a huge way.
Faith in the Tories being lower and...
Oh, big one. Do you think he'd have stood a better chance?
Yeah, probably, because Starmer's won. And, like, Corbyn was more popular at one point than Starmer has ever been.
Yeah.
So, I think, yeah, absolutely. If he'd have come along, even around, like, Trust time even, I think he'd have had I think he probably would be in government now, actually, probably with a similar majority. Actually, maybe a bit less, because people really don't like left-wing policies. But I think, yeah, Labour with...
But one
Corbyn
one of his policies that I was like the most pleased with, and it's a relatively simple one, was the broadband thing.
Yeah,
because
and he got laughed at.
I know I've said it to you before, but we live in a time now where you can't exist without being connected to the internet.
Yeah.
If you can exist without being connected to the internet, you have to have a certain level of wealth. It's a privilege to be offline.
Yeah.
Like, to exist on a basic level, you have to have access to the online community.
You have to have the resources that you have people to do the work.
And therefore, you can pay for better broadband. Yeah. So you can say this broadband will connect one device. You know, we will give you one. And if you want to hook up your PlayStation and your multiple tablets and PCs and stuff, you're going to have to pay for better broadband. But to give everyone that basic right, I think was... And it got laughed at. And then the Tories suggested a similar thing a few years later. And it was like, well, do you know what? I think that's... But they were like, oh, that's not even possible. And then a few years later, they were like, actually, that's a really, really good idea and everyone should be doing it. And it's like, you're a fucking... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tear down the man, but his policies were solid.
But that's the thing. His policies have died with him, haven't they? The sentiment...
Because they were attached to him.
Yeah. So they must be bad with him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's pretty dark times, to be honest.
It's the fact that Trump's inauguration was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, not even
so
that.
So much has happened.
And it's already...
Didn't I say to you it'd be good for content? Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be good for content, but bad for us.
But so much has changed.
Yeah.
So much has changed.
Yeah. Literally from day one, really. Just immediately, it was just... But that's why I wonder, like, how long can that go on for?
I think as well...
Because it's already negatively affecting his supporters.
And I think... And I think as well, it might...
Because if the tariffs had gone through, for example, that would have fucked his own people.
Do you know one of the things, and it made me laugh listening to a radio phone in about it, and an expert phoned in and said, well, one of the people that would benefit the most, because he talked about the electric vehicle industry, and he said, obviously, one of the people that would benefit, one company that would benefit more than any from the tariffs would be Tesla. And it's like, no shit. No shit, Musk would be one of the biggest benefactors.
How much do you reckon he gave to Trump to have this level of...
power?
How long do you think that goes on for as well? Again, part of me want how long is
part of me as well thinks,
because if you see British coverage, apparently they're already at each other's throats. But if you listen
Trump
to American coverage, they say they're in lockstep and like everything Musk is doing,
Trump can't stand him. But
I don't know. I don't know what one to believe.
But I believe that he can't stand him. But this is fine because it keeps him out of the way. So I don't know how much longer it continues. But look, it's really scary that we're only a few weeks into the administration of Trump
hope
too.
Naively that it starts to calm down, because the level of action he's taking and the sort of action that's being taken, it's.
I think it would be very
level.
It might fuck us with the trade route stuff, but I think it would be very good morally, but also quite funny, if we added America to the list of places where people are allowed to seek refuge if they're on the LGBT spectrum.
Why?
Because I just think that'd be quite funny, because it'd be like, actually, America's a really dangerous place for the gay community right now.
I see what you mean.
Therefore, if they want to come over here, we will give them, like, they don't have to worry about applying for this visa. They can just get over here.
Our government couldn't do that.
No.
Can you imagine the amount of hate it would get for doing that?
But I think it would be a really good, powerful message.
Yeah, I mean,
I would love to see us do it.
What do you think?
And to as well, imagine if we put it in that, like, oh, are you black and American? Yeah, you are at risk. Actually, you can come over to.
Yeah, our police won't shoot you.
Yeah, but literally, we might tase you.
Yeah, you might get stabbed.
You'll listen.
Like, there's a lot of stabbing.
I'm not gonna lie. there'll be a lot of gloved fingers.
Yeah.
Going up places. You'll be stopped a lot.
Yeah.
But you will not get shot. And that is a promise.
If you can just accept being degraded.
Yeah. Will you be racially profiled?
Being dehumanised.
100%. Our police are as bad as theirs for that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, our police are racist.
But we don't shoot them.
But we do not shoot.
Occasionally we shoot them. Occasionally we shoot
sometimes. But they're specialist teams.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they're not just walking the streets.
No, you will not guarantee. You know, if you just get pulled over because you're driving a nice car.
Even if you're an MP, you're probably going to get pulled over. You're going to get questioned.
You'll get grilled.
Yeah.
But you will not get shot. And that is a promise.
99.9% of the time you won't get shot.
That's a politician's promise.
I just imagine us stood on the podium. You'll survive 99.9% of the time.
You probably won't get shot. Yeah. And that's better than... Because right now,
better
in America, it's better than your chances.
Yeah. Like I saw this poor video of this black guy in America, and I think he was caught speeding, and he didn't pull over for a while. And it turned out he had a sick kid in the car, and he's trying to rush her to the hospital.
Oh, did the car start rolling away? Is it that one?
Yeah. And he's like got 4 or 5 guns on him, and he's just like, "I'm really sorry, my kid's sick." And he's like, "That's not good enough." And he's like, "But, do you know what I mean?" And he's just, and you sat there watching it, going, "Please don't shoot him. Please don't shoot him." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing that's what our police keep getting away with, is that because America's so we're so closely tied with America, and we get so much American news, and we consume so much American content, even fictional content and stuff. We get to look at their police and go, well, ours aren't that bad, and that sort of saves our police.
They really look down on us for the gun thing, by the way.
Yeah, but I don't know why.
I don't understand. Even the people that are like against guns are sort of like, it's a bit gay, not.
Because even a lot of countries across Europe have armed police officers just out and about on the street.
But as you said, we just have specialist teams. We don't feel the need to sort of.
It's never impeded us. It's never been it's so rarely been an issue.
It's so alien for us that like I remember the first time I saw a gun in an airport, and it was fucking terrifying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Imagine everyone pointed at you.
Yeah. I was scared of the bloke, and he was just stood there.
I remember there were armed police when I got caught train fare dodging on the train.
Really? What? Yeah. The ticket collector had a gun?
No, it was. I think I've told this story before.
Southern have got to new depths, haven't they?
We had to go to Sutton and change, and we jumped off the train, ran up the thing because the train we needed, the connecting train, was like literally pulling in. So we were like, "Fuck, we better like peg it here." Ran up the ramp, and as soon as we got to the bridge at Sutton, armed police just everywhere. And it was like, fucking hell. And they were like, where you going, boys? Where's your ticket? And I just went, oh.
Armed police got involved with stopping you train hopping?
Well, they were just like, I don't know what they were there for. I never found out what they were there for. But they were like, have you got a ticket? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, no. I must have left it on the train thinking that train's long gone, mate. There's no train stops at Sutton. It's still sat there. So me and this armed police officer
went onto the train,
looking for the ticket
so
that I know doesn't exist.
And you're just like, you're like John Travolta in that gif where he's like...
So I got an on-the-spot fine.
Yeah. Oh, no. How much?
It was only 20 quid.
Oh, okay.
But I was like 13. It was more money than I had.
I used to get the tram all the time in Croydon.
Yeah.
And the amount of times you'd see people getting pulled off and getting a fine, I used to love it. I used to be like, dickhead. And I don't know, like, obviously times are hard, so maybe I was being a bit mean.
I was at London Bridge recently, and I saw twice in the same day at London Bridge, maybe it's just a London Bridge issue, someone getting right up close to someone, once going into the tube and once going out of the train bit.
Yeah.
They literally just wait for someone to tap their Oyster card, and as they went through, they bundled up behind them.
Okay.
And like went in.
Yeah.
Free. Oh yes, that's got nothing to do with anything. We're just on fare dodging now. No. Have you ever fare dodged?
Yeah, of course I have. I used to do it on the bus when I was younger, because so many school kids would get on the back. You would just squeeze on the drive. I was just like, I can't do it.
Yeah, 100%.
But I didn't like doing that. I've definitely fare dodged on the tram before. Now that I'm older, it's not worth the stress. I would be sat there when I didn't have anxiety. When I was younger, I'd do it without thinking. Whereas now, I'm just like I couldn't live with it.
Can we put a pin in this conversation and discuss it when we're next on with Alex? Because he hates it.
Does he?
We went.
Oh, Alex, stop being such an establishment.
We came
wanker.
back. I've got two
Southern
stories.
as shit. Get off your
one of them,
horse.
Alex was knackered. Like,
they're nicking money off of us.
He was fucked. He'd just done like a night shift, and then we went to an away game, and we were coming back, and we had the cheap slow train tickets.
Okay.
And I was like, bollocks to that. I'm not waiting. First of all, it leaves later, and second of all, it gets in like. There was like a 2.5 hour difference between when we'd have got back to London.
I've actually done this with Leanne to Brighton and back before. We've got on different trains and never got caught.
Well, this is the thing. I was like, I'm not fucking waiting for it. He was like, no, we got.
I've paid for a train. Stop being.
And
I
was like, I'm not waiting for it. I said, there's so many people getting on this train, Palace fans.
Yeah.
I said, no one's going to come past. I said, don't worry about it. And if we do, we just play dumb fucking tourists. And he was like, I work for the rail. I said, you don't work for this rail. You don't work this far north. I was like, just play dumb tourists.
Mate, he's been radicalised, hasn't he?
And so we got
He's a shill.
Al, it was packed. I sat on the floor. Al sat on the rail.
So Alex
the luggage.
still did it, by the way.
I sort of forced him on.
He's
He's
a coward.
He was, and he just fell asleep. He was so tired, he just fell asleep the whole journey. And when we got back, it was no issue. But he just didn't feel comfortable about it the whole journey. So I want to talk fare dodging and that kind of thing.
See, I don't quite consider getting on the wrong train fare dodging. I consider that something different. It's bending the rules.
Al doesn't like breaking rules or bending rules. Whereas I'm a little more open to it, as we've discussed.
You have famously said in the past, I pick and choose what laws I follow.
I don't think I can be held to account.
Like a lot of men, to be fair. That's a very male attitude.
And white.
Yeah. Like I said, it's our time.
So it is our time.
Do you want to do the salute? I know you do. White pal.
It's always one of my favourite jokes.
Just for anyone listening, that was a joke. I don't believe in white power.
It's one of my favourite jokes on Modern Family when they're doing the family team day thing.
Okay.
And they've split into teams, and Phil's team is the white team. And he gets out of the cab, and the cab driver's black, and he's like chucking their cases down, and he's like,
"Oh, and he's got white
fuck you, he's got white is right or whatever on his t-shirt." Yeah. He's like, "Thank you, my good man."
Do you know what? It's
a great joke.
Well-written
it's a great joke.
The show's fantastic. The actors in it are like all of them have their moments. I think Phil is arguably up there.
The best character. The best character.
Cam almost edges.
Cam has moments.
Because and when I found out he was straight in real life, I was like, the performance is on point. Do you know what I mean? He's gay for pay, as he says.
But yeah, no. Phil is the best.
Yeah, he's low key a ladies' man. Like I remember when he was in there's a famous scene. He's in hospital and Claire's pushing him out in a wheelchair, and increasingly younger and better looking women are about to be like, "Oh, Phil, are you leaving?" So yeah, absolute G.
But yeah, no, I always loved that joke. It was very because it's the naivety of Phil. Yeah, it's just innocence. He's not racist. That's the joke. So he doesn't occur to him that it might be because he's so pure.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. Which show, can I just ask you this before we go? Which show would you like to most, that has obviously no longer on the air? And that could be a topical show like a Mock the Week, or it could be a The Office or something like that, like a fictionalized show. Which show would you most like to see tackle this current era that we're living in?
The thick of it, probably.
Yes.
The thick of it. I've not watched all of it. I think I've watched one season. But it's one of the best written and
the thick of it
shows I've ever seen.
With the Johnson era politics.
It's not Lewis. Peter Capaldi.
Yeah,
he's one of the finest British actors out there. And you know, I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but I would actually say I've gone down.
He's one of my favourite doctors.
I think he
does speeches like no one else.
He's probably my favourite. Probably closely followed.
I take it you've seen the war speech. You're going to have to do what everyone does, sit down and talk. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great speech.
Yeah. And like one of my other favourite moments, he's like surrounded by men with guns and they all refuse to shoot him. And they're like, the god of war is identified by having no weapons or something like that. And they all like stand down and he just wins by doing nothing.
There's also a fantastic speech where he's talking to Missy. And she's been swayed by the master. She's kind of, I'm not going to set up or anything, but he says like, I don't do it because it's easy, because fight is fucking not. He says, I do it because it's kind. It's just that. It's kind. It's the right thing to do. That's the only reason I do it. And it's a really powerful speech as well.
But yeah,
him in the thick of it, you're right.
He's fantastic. And it made me like Alistair Campbell a little bit, because that's who his character's based off.
Could you imagine the thick of it tackling Liz Truss? would be phenomenal.
Even if they went after Labour, I
Yeah,
think it'd be
even
fantastic. But yeah, the thing is though, it would probably come across even more ridiculous, and you probably might not even. They might have to tone it down from reality to make it more enjoyable. Because if you caricature Liz Truss, like, it can go quite mental, or even Trump. So, what about you? What show would you like to?
No, the thick of it is pretty up there, I would say.
Yeah. Armando Iannucci, one of the finest writers in.
Agreed. I would love to see like you said, I would love to see Malcolm Tucker getting into the current state of politics.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that, like I said, Liz Truss lost to a lettuce.
He's an authoritarian lefty, Alistair Campbell, which is an interesting combination. And an incredibly divisive figure, and probably has a very dark hand in.
It's very interesting to see, because he does the Rest is Politics with
which
Rory
I quite
Stewart.
enjoy.
And JD Vance went after Rory Stewart this week.
Okay.
Because he was
they had a debate about God, didn't they?
Well, because Rory Stewart was like, you spout all this shit about, you're doing these things to Christians. He's like, but actually the Bible preaches much kinder teachings than what you're going on about, which is a nice message from Rory Stewart, to be honest. And it's like, get on it.
What do you think of Rory Stewart? Because
I liked him when he was a Tory and he was running for he first put his name in the hat 7 years ago, whenever it was. I kind of liked him. I didn't agree with all of his policies, but he was very much someone who was like, look, he's always been someone to me who says that we need to find the middle ground. It's all about compromise, and it's all about we're not going to agree with everything, but we can still be civil, we can still have a discussion. And I've always admired that in him.
As I've always said, I think he's what a conservative should be, really. And again, I don't agree with him on everything, and I think he can be quite hard-lined on certain things.
Absolutely.
But what is really nice is that him and Alistair Campbell, that are very opposite people
politically,
in every sense, really. Get on as well as they do. And
well, Alistair Campbell coming to his defence on Twitter, and it's just like, this is weird.
And I actually think it's important to have something like that, and for it to be successful, because it can show an example of like how people on opposite ends of the spectrum can talk to each other and have meaningful debate. And there's loads of times where they don't agree with each other. But
biggest things,
like we've done today, we've disagreed on things, but we still have a conversation.
One of the biggest things that I believe should be doable and should be being done by everyone is it's to get rid of this tribalism. This I've got to blindly follow this person or this party or whatever. Is to go, regardless of whether you're left, right, whether you're Tory, Reform, Labour, Green, Lib Dem, to look at it and go, I will be critical of everyone. If someone in the party, if I'm like a complete loyal Labour supporter, if I'm a complete loyal Reform supporter, if one of them says something that's just not true or goes against something they've said previously, call it out. Like, that's the point. And particularly those in power, those either in government or in opposition, regardless of your loyalties and allegiances, and we do it here regularly, even though we are left wing.
On both sides as well.
We do criticise Starmer and his government a lot. Because it needs to be done.
Well, and the thing is, as we've said all along, it's all about choices. But part of the problem is it's what you're mandated to do when you get into power, isn't it? So and how that's generally measured is by your manifesto when you're getting elected, isn't it? It's by the things you say you're going to do. But I genuinely think Starmer was in a position, despite the fact he hadn't promised any of it in his manifesto, that with how bad everything was going, if he'd decided to go more left-leaning rather than centrist or, in our opinion, right-wing, the general improvement you would have seen, people wouldn't have given a shit. Do you know what I mean? Because people don't actually really give a shit about what's being promised as long as things are improving.
Do you think it's fair for them to hide behind the deficit that they were left?
Yeah. I mean, look, it has tripled in size, the public debt, and the deficit is higher than it's ever been and things like that.
And this black hole, this public spending black hole.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, that wasn't enough for them to do an about face in terms of the level of investment they were going to do. In my opinion, I don't think it was a big enough black hole to be like, well, this changes everything and changes our approach, and you know, we're not going to do anything radical whatsoever. And I don't think they were going to do anything radical to begin with, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing is, I'm sitting here talking about how tough life is to be a disabled person in America right now. Not that much easier to be a disabled person in the UK, because all these cuts to benefits. And the funny thing is, and we've spoken about this before, that the most laughable fact of it all is that most people who are on benefits in this country are actually in work.
Yeah.
And they're topping up wages. They're not actually...
And this obsession with the 9 million out of work, but not at any point breaking down what's that 9 million made of. How many of them are long-term sick and are on a waiting list to get help, and then they might be able to get back into work in a year or two's time when they've recovered. Like, we're not getting given any detail on that. We're just being told there's 9 million people out of work. And I bet you at least half of those people aren't actually able to work.
Yeah, and that's the thing is
and the rest will most likely be people that, as we've said, look at the fact the social contract's been broken and go, fuck it.
People who moan about benefits, and it's an easy one to whip people up with. I can tell from the way someone talks about the benefits argument whether or not they have, either through themselves or someone they know very closely, tried to claim benefits.
Yeah.
Because you're made to... It's not... You don't just turn up at the office and go, all right, fella, I'm here for me £100 a week.
The more in need you are,
the more hoops they make you jump through.
Yeah.
And it's like they'll, the whole thing of that, they'll ring people up who are like fucking double amputees, and they'll be like, just want to check, we
need you to come in for a meeting next week.
Are you still unable to walk? And it's like, well, my legs didn't fucking grow back. Yeah, I'm unable to walk. Like, but that's the kind of shit they do ask.
No, I know.
And they'll be like, yeah. And they'll have it on their notes. I know someone personally who's got it on their notes that because of a severe anxiety and basically bordering on agoraphobia, they're unable to have in-person meetings, but they've always said they're happy to look for work remotely. But they have to do, again, this person's got a lot of illnesses and they've got a lot going on.
Do you remember that story I sent you about that bloke? I can't remember his name.
The one with the stairs? The one where they said, can you still get upstairs?
No, it was the poor bloke. Similar story in terms of couldn't leave the house, was struggling massively mentally, had his benefits cut, still couldn't leave the house and ended up starving to death.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was like, austerity, like, there's an actual cost to it. There's a cost to cutting people.
It is life and death for some people.
Yeah, and like if you listen to Jack Monroe's story and how much they struggled and the fact they were like 12 hours away, the plan to kill themselves was in place and it was going to happen.
Well, like I said, but
a last desperate attempt at attention got them help.
With this friend of mine, I'm more of an acquaintance, I'll admit, but with this person's very close to someone I'm very close to, so I do know quite a lot about their story and stuff. But they've got a lot of issues. They're happy to look for work, but it'll only ever be part-time work. It have to be remote, and it can only ever be part-time. But they're not getting into the job market. They're really struggling.
Yeah.
And even though it's in their notes, the Department of Work and Pensions said you need to come in for an in-person interview, and they were like, I just can't do that. They said, but we'll do it on the phone, blah, blah, blah. And it got marked down in their file that they failed to turn up for this in-person interview. So their benefits were suspended. Now, even though they will win the review, that review will take minimum 3 months.
Without getting money.
Before they'll backdate it. But that means for the next 3 months, they've got to try and survive without money. Now, they're very lucky in that they've got... This person is a very lovely person and they've got a good network of friends and family that are going to...
But not everyone has that.
But not everyone has that.
No.
And even then, that's putting an extra strain on their friends and family that they can't afford.
I've been in...
So I can tell from the way people argue about benefits whether they've ever tried to claim benefits.
I remember being in a waiting room for like an assessment office for people on benefits.
Yeah.
And if the level of anxiety in that waiting room,
because if you slip up,
I've never seen fear like that for quite a while. In terms of just people looking so terrified that they were going to lose everything and die. That's the crux of it, and it's why I struggle the most with right wing ideology, and
because it's a lack of kindness and a lack of empathy.
Where it ends up is death. And part of, I don't know, I was thinking the other day, part of me wonders whether, like, with the Nazi thing, in terms of, like, we're seeing a rise in Nazi behaviour, but it's not really being taken seriously. And part of me wonders, is that because the depths of which the Nazis got to and that huge number of people that they massacred, because we're not there, people can't believe we're going to get there, and that we're just catastrophizing.
Well, also the number of people that deny it has risen massively.
Yeah.
The Holocaust deniers is huge.
I just don't understand.
And they're all going,
like, we know it happened.
And there's a lot of people now who are like, they're Holocaust deniers, but what I would describe as maybe semi-Holocaust deniers, because they'll say it happened, and they'll say there's no way it was 6 million.
Yeah.
And there's like, that's only the Jewish population.
Yeah, that's not everyone else.
That's only 6 million Jews. There were so many more people that were put into the gas chambers who weren't Jewish.
Yeah.
Like and killed in the labour camps who weren't Jewish. They were political prisoners. They were gay. They were disabled. Like that's
twins
just
were experimented on. Do you know what I mean? Like the depravity and inhumanity that went on.
So like, yeah, I don't know.
And it does to a degree. To take it back to that, is that we're sort of sleepwalking towards it. Do you know what I mean?
And also, I think now the time thing makes a difference as well, because we're now celebrating. This year we celebrated the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. 80 years.
We forget.
There's no one.
Have short memories.
There's very few people alive now who were alive then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the ones who are alive were probably children.
Well, we're now in the position where the descendants of a lot of these poor people have gone on to be in a position where their nation state has been carrying out, maybe not to the same degree, but the same level of dehumanization and killing in Israel and Palestine. And the logic has been, well, that's fine because they're Israel and we can't say anything because that's anti-Semitic. And that's just the world we're living in. And I'd maybe to expand on, do we live in a post-truth country? Yeah, I think we live in a post-truth world, to be honest with you. Just think logic has left the room.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But you know what is logical?
What's that?
For people to follow us on the socials.
Beautifully done.
And I've not got it lined up. Give yourself
a round of applause. Go on. That was not a round of applause. Was the swerve intended?
The swerve was intended because it was me just smoothly swerving us into the end game, into the end zone.
Goodbye to the people.
It's time to
say goodbye.
That might be nonsense. I don't know.
I always say punami pastrami.
That might be the words. I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
You're obsessed.
What with punani?
Dirty words and fannies.
I am. Like, if you were to ask Liam what's one of the funniest and most annoying things about me, I think it would be what I do with song lyrics.
As discussed on the last episode.
Yeah. Or around Christmas with the Chris Rea clip of wanking home for Christmas.
And I think you've got a filthy mind and you're obsessed with it.
Yeah, well, I'm a man. Just a man, goddammit.
But you're a white man, so you're a victim. Actually, you are a victim.
Exactly. It was like one of my favourite moments on the pod last year was with Joe when we were discussing like older men and younger women dating and like men not being able to control themselves, and she was like, it's because women are the problem. They're just sat there being attractive and men can't help themselves.
Like, good looking ankles. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad we got to the root of the problem, that women are the issue.
And I'll tell you what, there's a DEI hire. Getting Joe on.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to get a woman.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Absolutely
I did
ridiculous.
Look at our stats the other day, like our lifetime demographic on the YouTube, and it's 17% women and the rest men, and the demographic is between 18 and 45.
Narrows it down.
So pretty much like just men, probably white men, I'd imagine.
Who are victims? We're victims.
Yeah. So I think that's the message we're putting out there this week.
White men are actually victims.
Yeah. And I'm on board with it. It fits my image. And look, it fits our image if we decide to go to America and make it big.
Do you know what would be so funny? Is if we were just happy, we've got decent numbers. If we're just happy plugging away the numbers. And then we actually went on the right-wing graft. The right-wing grift in America. And we just shot up.
You would have to pretend to be religious, though. That does sort of go hand in hand.
That's fine. None of these people who claim to be Christian are actually Christian.
No, but we might occasionally have to get photographed, at least inside a church.
Like, I will do what Donald Trump did. I will go to a church, listen to the priest, and go, "What the fuck is this bitch spouting?"
Just be nice to everyone.
Love and kindness.
Fuck
The
noise.
fuck is this son of a bitch on about?
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, shut up, you bastard.
Bomb, baby, bomb.
You've never met a black man, have you? That's just why they don't let women be priests. That's going in the clip, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd have thought
That's
so.
going in the clip.
Yeah.
No, as I said it. Anyway, they can follow us.
Yeah.
Where?
They can find us on Crossing Swords on Facebook, at Swords Crossing on Twitter, on Instagram and TikTok at CrossingSwords_podcast. And if you want to email us, if you're a maverick, if you're out there and that's how you correspond, then you can do so at CrossingSwords19@gmail.com.
Sorry, I interrupted. It is, as you said,
Made me
CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. If you're a woman and you're afraid to put your opinion out there in public,
you should be.
But you want to message us privately, that's
Yeah.
an option for you.
And if you want to show, we'd appreciate some messages from women accepting that we're the real victims here.
And I want to know if we're going to, also, this is my question to the people. If we're going to
start going to the gym as well, wouldn't we? To be part of the manosphere.
I'm actually thinking of just re-signing up to a gym.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were still a member and just not going.
Nah, there was no point when I was going on trips all the time.
Yeah.
But I've got a bit of a break now, so I was like, I might just do.
Why don't you just go for a jog?
A gym. I can't do that.
Nah,
I get too bored. Like, legitimately, I just can't do the running, jogging thing. I've tried it a few times in my life. Not for me.
That's fair.
But my question to the people is this. If we're going to take in members of the LGBT plus community as refugees,
yeah,
and if we're going to take in black people as refugees from America, what other qualities do you think Americans could apply for refugee status in the UK under?
I mean, if they could start victimising like teachers and doctors and things,
Be handy
like
for
that,
us. It would be handy.
That would be great.
Well, medical professionals almost were the problem at one point. During the COVID reign.
Yeah,
just almost.
How dare people want to get paid fairly? Do you know what I mean?
So we're saying doctors and nurses as well and teachers, they can apply under refugee status.
I think so, yeah.
But I want to know what characteristics, what qualities, other than being queer or black, would qualify you for refugee status in the UK.
I'd love to know what people want. Yeah. Is that the end?
That's the end.
Okay. Bye, guys.